things definitely got crazy here on the set of The Five, and it really begs the question, you know, who do you think is more insufferable, Jessica Tarlov or Harold Ford Jr.? Okay, let me know down below in the comments. Many people are saying that, you know, Jessica Tarlov should be completely removed, placed on The View, and, you know, they don't mind Harold Ford Jr. staying on the set of The Five because he's a little bit more bearable, just a tad bit. But even he has his moments, they say. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Who do you think should leave the Five, and who do you think should stay out of Jessica Tarlov and Harold Ford Jr.? Drop down below in the comments. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button, hit subscribe, and we're gonna break this whole video down. Okay, let's get right into it. Let's go. It gets really interesting.
President Trump flexing his tariff muscle as he takes the economy on a trade roller coaster in his push for fairer deals. The president is exempting many electronics, smartphones, laptops, and other products from newly implemented tariffs. But then he announced on Truth Social that nobody is getting off the hook, especially China. Those products are just moving to a different tariff bucket. Trump chalking up the whiplash to his flexibility.
I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible. And you have to be. We lost with China over the Biden years trillions of dollars on trade. Trillions of dollars. And he let them fleece us. And we can't do that anymore. The end result is we're going to get to the position of greatness for our country. We're the greatest economic power in the world if we're smart. If we're not smart, we're going to hurt our country very badly.
Last week, it was 75 countries wanting to come to the tariff negotiating table, and now the White House is upping that number.
130 countries have responded, and we're negotiating with them, and they've got their rate down to 10%. And so really, it's kind of almost a two-world system. There's a process about China, and that's very, very nascent, if at all, and then the process for everybody else. So the process for everybody else is orderly, it's clear, people are coming to town with great offers.
Meanwhile, United Auto Workers Union President Shawn Fain, who campaigned with Kamala Harris last year, well, he is backing up Trump's tariffs as a way to bring jobs back to America. Watch.
Know that tariffs will influence these companies to do the right thing and reinvest in this country and reinvest in factories in this country.
I am really struggling to understand how UAW has aligned itself with Trump on this.
Well, how do tariffs create jobs?
We support tariffs as a tool in the toolbox, not the end-all be-all. We got to fix the broken trade system. But tariffs are a motivator to make these companies do the right thing.
So tariff deals, I think they said 90. They're going to try and do them in several months. It's like warp speed in the vaccine.
Let's start where we agree, Harold.
Why are you arguing? It's good to see you, man.
Don't talk to Harold like that.
I've been ready for this.
Good, Harold. Looks like you got a little sun. All right.
All right, well, let's start where we disagree then.
Yeah.
All right, Harold and I would agree that we need to confront China.
No doubt.
You would agree that we need to reindustrialize the economy for the 21st century, high-tech manufacturing. We agree? We agree.
We do. Absolutely.
Right. You would agree that we want to get our trade partners to reduce their tariffs on our exports, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You would agree that we need rare earth minerals and we need abundant energy to fuel this modern economy?
Without question.
Okay, so that's where we agree. Donald Trump is the only one making progress on any of this. He's the only one talking about it, and he's the only one getting results. He's actually the first person to talk about how all these things come together under one goal to make America great again. We've already gotten our eyes on the minerals in Ukraine, and we have our eyes on minerals in Greenland. We've gotten $4 trillion in private investment into this country on high-tech manufacturing. We have companies racing to decouple from China. And 130 allies have now said they're going to drop their tariffs on our exports down to 10%. That's massive progress. Has it been perfect? No. But has it gotten results? Absolutely. We could get a lot faster and better results if the Democrats would cooperate. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is an American issue. So instead of just sitting around and complaining, where your only idea is to do nothing, that's just going to isolate the Democratic Party, because once this thing starts going and Trump's proven to be flexible, he has carve-outs. He's watching the bond market. He says we might need to help Detroit because even he understands you can't relocate major factories in a month Could take a year, could take 2 or 3. Why don't we reach across the aisle like you and I are right now, Harold, shake hands, and do this for the American people together?
All right, Harold, I guess you get to go next.
Good to be here. Glad to be back around the table. Jesse, I love the way you started out. I think one of the things that people in government should always do is lay out the things where they agree upon first and then let the disagreements flow if there have to be. I don't disagree with anything you said about what we want for the country. We might quarrel over the things we want to produce here. I think we ought to be producing the things that help make robots, repair robots. We had to look forward where the economy is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years. One of the great, if not the greatest hockey player to ever play the game, Wayne Gretzky, used to say, you skate where the puck's going to be, not where it is. Our economic policy and industrial policy should be geared towards going where the country, where the world is going, which is why it's so interesting to me to watch how the president's conducting himself. This president comes to the job with more business experience, with more negotiating experience, with more success in that than anybody. And I think he would tell you the way you negotiate a deal successfully is to always have leverage. And if you don't have leverage, you make sure you find ways to always be able to create leverage. If you think about our leverage as a country, the strength of the United States, the reason so many countries want to do business here and to see their goods come here is because of the strength of our consumer. 70% of our GDP is consumer resiliency and consumer strength. As we sit here today, the numbers suggest that may be in decline. However, some of the spending on the part of consumers suggests that consumers are spending still. We'll get some of the forward-looking numbers of April and May in the coming months. 2, we have rule of law. People in business love it when they can depend on that there's stability and how things are going to be done. They like the fact that our dollar is the reserve currency, the safe haven for the world. It looks as if it's not moving, it's not there, but it doesn't seem to be exactly where we want it to be, and it's the role of our national defense. I think as you look at today, I think the question we all have to answer, and I think those watching have to answer, more importantly, the president, and it's not Democrats and Republicans in Congress. This is the president doing all the negotiating himself. The question is, do we have more leverage today than we did before Liberation Day? We talk about trillions of dollars of opportunity for the country. We've lost $12 trillion in market cap wealth for our country. Some may dismiss that and say it's and belittle it, and that may be. I don't belittle it. I think that's a huge issue. 2, the problem the president, I think, fundamentally has is we don't know what he wants. On some days, it's fentanyl and drugs and human trafficking. On some days, he wants a zero out of tariffs between the two countries. The third time, sometimes he mentions we want less of a reliance on China. That's what I want. I think our whole plan about tariffs and trade ought to be organized. How do we rely less on China and China's supply chains? And finally, it looks as if sometimes the president wants to zero out our trade imbalances with country. I think all of those things, they conflict at times, and it makes it more difficult to reach an endpoint. My advice to the president is, don't lose our leverage. If the American consumer gets weaker, if our biggest and greatest companies are not as wealthy and as rich as they are today, tomorrow than they are today, we have less of a chance of negotiating the kinds of deals we want with these countries going forward. But I like the fact that we agreed on the things we agreed on. And let's figure out, and the president ought to be doing that with not just Democrats, but with his own party. I would also suggest he do it with his own cabinet, because some days Mr. Lutnick says things differently than Mr. Besant.
Can we keep it going?
I'm going to say right there, as much as I, don't really care for Jessica Tarlov or Harold Ford Jr., I definitely personally prefer Harold Ford Jr. over Jessica Tarlov, okay? Even when he's disagreeing with, everybody on set, he still has a common sense approach to things, which I can appreciate more than, Democrat, Kamala Harris duplicate Jessica Tarlov. Okay, granted, I don't always agree with Harold Ford Jr. There's still things there, but, he definitely is more, he's more agreeable than, Jessica Tarlov. She's more unhinged and radical, I would say. She kind of leans more towards the woke progressive. I would label her as more of the woke progressive. Let me know what you guys think down below. How would you label Harold Ford Jr. versus Jessica Tarlov as far as the types of Democrats? Let me know down below in the comments. I look forward to seeing what you guys have to say. It definitely gets crazier with everything on set. Let's go.
All of this, camaraderie, Judge?
Always, always. And I want to welcome Harold back from the Masters.
You're very kind. I went down for a day. It was very
and I'm
fun.
wearing a green jacket for the Masters, and Jesse has green in his tie for the Masters. Look, I think that what the president is doing. Oh, and you have a green suit on, Tyrus. I'm sorry.
Is that green? That's green.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's time for glasses for Dana.
Yeah, it is green. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's green.
Yeah, it's green. He got mad at me because I didn't know it was green. Okay, look, the most important thing is bringing back manufacturing to the United States. And I don't know, Harold, if you're suggesting that when you talk about AI that we have to look forward, that there's something wrong with bringing manufacturing back to the United States. I'm hoping I didn't misunderstand.
No, ma'am, I meant
that.
the jobs we want to bring back are not the assembly jobs of iPhones, but it's how do you make the robots and the AI that go. That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Cars,
Right,
which is why you've got people like Sean Fain and the UAW saying we, as Democrats, we support the president in this endeavor. And you know what? The president can have a multifaceted motivation here. He wants to get rid of fentanyl. He wants to make sure that we stop the killing of innocent Americans because China is sending the precursor to fentanyl to Mexico, where they're stamping it and selling it into the United States. And he can also have a motivation of less reliance on China, which, as we saw during COVID, was I don't want to have to rely on China for masks or for medication. I want medicines in this country being made here. So the idea that, you're not sure what his motivation is, there's a whole panoply of motivations as to why we need to get everything back to the United States so we can maintain an independence. And by the way, we are the greatest economic power in the world. We are the greatest consumer base in the world. And I know that we lost some money, but we're going to get that money back. I don't think there's any question about it. And I think that the only reason that the Democrats have not sued, and believe me, they sue about everything. They sue about immigration and they sue about all the other stuff. But there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal. If Democrats genuinely oppose tariffs, they could file lawsuits to stop them, but they're not doing that. I think in the end, what we've got is a president who's got the backbone and the spine to negotiate or renegotiate, shows that he is willing to put his political leverage so that we can regain our standing on the world stage. And all this namby-pamby, we may lose this and we may lose that, is not part of his game. His game is, I'm making America first. I know how to do it. I've got the backbone to do it. No one else did it, and I'm going to get it done.
Tyrus, it was weird to me to have MSNBC.
Great points from Judge Jeanine. Okay, she always brings, a very, definitely a common sense approach, and, bringing the truth and just laying it out there on the table exactly how it needs to be told, telling it like it is. And those are some things that I can always appreciate from Judge Jeanine. Drop down below in the comments what your thoughts are about what she's saying. How do you feel about the tariffs, Trump's tariff plan? Do you think that we're on, this is the right track for the country? Okay, a lot of people are still trying to fight Trump on the tariffs. I personally think that if the Dems and the Republicans could come together, then we'd be a lot stronger as a country, with making these power moves. But will the Dems come around? I personally don't believe so. No matter how much common sense Harold can, put out there, I definitely don't see the Dems coming around. I think they'll definitely continue to make Trump's job a lot harder, but I do think these tariffs, from Trump definitely are necessary, and you have to see the bigger picture. Those are just some of my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Let's go.
Asking like a left-wing organization of the UAW why they would support Trump when the tariffs are a left-wing agenda item. So why don't they just embrace it? And also, he said today he's considering temporary exemptions from his 25% tariffs on the auto industry. So they could actually win on both sides of it.
Well, the first part of your question, it doesn't matter what President Trump does, MSNBC. He could literally come out with a valve that says the cure for cancer right here. And they will say that was a glass valve and it was bad that you're using glass and not using plastic. That's the issue. We're taking advice. You have to respect the process. This is a process. This is a negotiation. I'd just like to point out there was 6 agreements and a handshake between a Republican and Democrat, probably the first time in 4 years. Congratulations, fellas.
Jesse's my brother. He just won't admit it in public.
But in the spirit of that, we have to respect the process. The people who are criticizing, there is no honor and respect among thieves. We had 4 years of fleecing of this country. China had 4 years to make their move, and they did. The problem was they didn't anticipate they were going to have to deal with President Trump again. Now he's back into to what Harold was talking about. There's everywhere before, fentanyl is a giant pie. And China's been eating all the pie. Fentanyl's on one side, economic stuff's on the other side, and we have to punch them in the mouth because China's goal was to get what? The world currency. They didn't want the dollar bill to be the world currency. They wanted China to be the world currency, and that was their agenda. So there's a lot of angles to this because he's behind 4 years to trying to catch up. So respect the process. And
yeah, I'm just going to add right there, you know, Trump definitely is cleaning up. While he's making these powerhouse moves, he's still also cleaning up the country from the residue and damage of the abomination of the Biden-Harris administration. So he's definitely got his hands full with a lot of work, and he's definitely, you know, taking it on like a champ. So shout out to President Trump, you know, definitely, you know, with his age and everything, he's definitely just out here, you know, dominating. So it's really awesome to see that. And you know, it is going to be a process. It is going to take time, and that's the thing. But see, the Democrats, they definitely they're the party of anti-common sense. So they're not really going to see it from that perspective of, you know, we have to, you know, go step by step. We can't skip steps. We have to do things in order. There has to be an order, system, order, and structure to things. They kind of just want things to just, I wish upon a star, and poof, it happens and is there in front of me. It doesn't work like that, okay? That, or they want to just, you know, dictate their way into everything. So there's that. And, you know, it's funny that they're even attacking the tariffs because it definitely is, you know, a left-wing thing, the tariffs and everything like that. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I always look forward to seeing what you have to say. Let's go.
when you have people on TV who put their hands on their face, like, why are you doing that? Means they have no clue what they're talking about. Respect the process. There is hard times put on this country, and you got to get through hard times. You're going to have growing pains. It's going to hurt a little bit, but I feel confident. The people that everywhere I go, people feel confident, feel good. We would rather go down swinging than sit like we did for the last 4 years.
Go get it.
But can I just say this?
Hard time.
But we were doing pretty doggone well 4 years ago. The Canada and Mexico thing the president wants to renegotiate, he was the one that negotiated that deal back in his first term. He renegotiated
Harold, I love
NAFTA.
you, but when you say we were doing well, everywhere I traveled, I didn't feel people doing well.
I don't get me wrong. We can be doing better, but the reality is we are $12 trillion poorer today than we were on Liberation Day.
And we're going to regain that money when the manufacturing and the businesses come back to the United States. That is a temporary move right now. That is a temporary situation.
See, there we go.
Can I borrow the jacket?
But remember those algebra problems where there's a train going this fast and then the other train's going to come this way?
So there we have it. Okay, Harold Ford Jr., that's the thing, he definitely he can make some common sense points, some things that you agree with, but then it's like, okay, yeah, no, he's still a leftist, so there's that. But yeah, but they always come from this angle as if we were doing better under Biden, like America wasn't, a doormat, like America wasn't just being, just extracted from, okay, just being reduced to nothing, okay, just, Biden was just a vegetable. I mean, seriously, where were you, okay, those last 4 years? It was atrocious, all right? And, yeah, that was that. So, Trump has a lot to take on here, and he's definitely tackling it, which is something I definitely respect. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. Shout out to the King Squad. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome, and I hope you're having a great and awesome day. Peace.